The town of Havenwood was quiet. Too quiet. The silence was heavy, a blanket smothering the usual sounds of life. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, afraid to disturb the unsettling stillness. Old man Hemlock, who had lived in Havenwood his entire life, felt it first. It began as a prickling on the back of his neck as he passed the cemetery on his daily walk. He stopped, his gaze drawn to the overgrown grass and crooked headstones. There was no birdsong, no rustling leaves, just an empty silence that seemed to suck the air from his lungs. Hemlock hurried home. The image of the silent cemetery burned into his mind. He tried to shake off the feeling, but the quiet followed him, seeping into his bones. On the radio, static replaced the usual morning news. He tried calling his daughter Sarah, but the line was dead. Fear, cold and sharp, began to grip his heart. Something was terribly wrong in Havenwood. Dr. Emily Carter was used to the quiet rhythms of Havenwood, but the silence on this day was different. It felt wrong. A frantic pounding on her door shattered the stillness. It was old man Hemlock, his face pale and etched with fear. "Something's wrong, Doc," he gasped. "It's Sarah. She's not right." Rushing to the Hemlock house, Emily braced herself for the worst. She found Sarah in her bedroom, eyes vacant and unfocused. "Sarah?" Emily asked softly, but the young woman didn't react. Her skin was clammy and her breathing was shallow. As Emily reached for her stethoscope, Sarah let out a low, guttural moan. It was a sound that chilled Emily to her core, a sound that spoke of something ancient and evil. Examining Sarah, Emily found nothing physically wrong, yet something was terribly, horrifyingly wrong. Her mind raced, searching for an explanation. Then she saw it, a small, discoloured patch on the back of Sarah's neck. It was almost black, like a bruise spreading beneath the skin. The news spread through Havenwood like wildfire. Sarah Hemlock was sick, but it wasn't the flu or pneumonia or anything anyone had seen before. The doctor called it brain rot, a name whispered in hushed tones that spread fear faster than any virus. The symptoms were as terrifying as they were baffling. It started with forgetfulness, a blankness in the eyes. Then came the headaches, the agonizing pain that racked the body. Finally, the victims were left in a catatonic state, their minds seemingly devoured from the inside out. The once peaceful town was gripped by terror. People locked themselves indoors, afraid to speak to their neighbours, terrified of catching the unknown disease. The silence that had once unnerved them was now shattered by screams, by the cries of the afflicted and the desperate prayers of the healthy. Emily, working tirelessly in her small clinic, was overwhelmed. Every hour brought new patients, the black mark spreading like a plague through the town. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a thick fog rolled in, blanketing Havenwood in an eerie white silence. The air grew heavy, thick with a cloying sweetness that made Emily gag. Looking out her window, she noticed something strange. The fog seemed to pulsate, as if something lived and breathed within it. Then a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, followed by another and another, until the air vibrated with the sound of pure terror. Emily rushed out, her heart pounding in her chest. She saw her neighbours stumbling through the fog, their eyes vacant, their bodies contorted in unnatural positions. The black marks on their skin had spread, consuming them like a dark fire. The fog swirled around Emily, tendrils snaking towards her, and she realised with a growing horror that it wasn't fog at all. It was alive. It was the disease, and it was feeding on the fear and despair of Havenwood. As the fog enveloped her, Emily understood the chilling truth. Brain rot wasn't just a disease. It was a predator, and Havenwood was its hunting ground.